There's so much to talk about, both with you back and forth, and just thoughts that I've got, and sort of stories, and hopefully some insights that will be a contribution to you. I think, first of all, if you've come here with an intention of any kind to get a certain kind of information, a certain particular piece of information, a general thing, whatever, would you just take like 15 seconds now, type into the chat for Peter what concerns are on your mind? If it's just the normal, I came here to see what's, how to find your true north in the time of COVID, you can save that. But anything that's particular or weighing on your mind, please let him know. And I'll keep an eye on that for later, because I'd love for you to each personally take home some piece of value which is unique to you. That's really important to me. So I've done a bunch of writing. I don't tend to read from scripts any more than I like playing written music as much as I like to improvise. So I'm going to talk right into this lens, which you'll find out later is terribly uncharacteristic for me and for most of us. And that's kind of one of the things that I think we're here to talk about. I'm going to pay a little bit of a mind to it at first because I'm slightly nervous. There's so many of you, and this is just a little new for me. First of all, thank you to NextFest for inviting me to hang with you today. This is a no-brainer. I'm going to start out with about 20 minutes worth of thoughts and experiences and insights on kind of where we are now as a musical community, where we are as personal artists, where the business looks and doesn't look like it's going. Just a few thoughts on that. And then we'll get into about 20 minutes of more specific technology related tools. I think some of you come for that. And that's been a part of my practice for the past 20 years at least, if not more. It's what I teach at the Manhattan School of Music. It's part of what I teach at the Manhattan School of Music. We'll talk about that. Also, the love of my life, my life partner, Isabel Holmes, is just in the other room, and she's on the call with us as well. She's working on a Google Doc, which we've already put a lot into, but we'll put some other links and things in there as they come up today, and as you bring them up, and as we all reflect on them together. So I want you to know about that. Next, good, right into it. So this idea of true north that I brought up in terms of titling this event, it's important to me because it's what I'm doing too. In this time, COVID is the drama right now, right? And it will impact us far into the future in ways that we can't even imagine right now. And it seems like every day there's something different, and we're completely unmoored, and we have questions about all sorts of matters. But the one thing that we do know right now is we're spending a lot of time alone. Most of us have had all of our work canceled. Maybe some of us feel at sea. I want to provide some imagery today to take us through the hour that I hope will be helpful. And it's really all connected to a circle and a sphere. I'm going to talk about spectrums a lot, in our community. I mean, I cannot pretend to know what your experience is, right? I cannot know what your individual circumstances are. And we who are sitting on this call need to be really aware of the fact that there are people who don't have internet, and there are plenty of people out there who are not getting what they need and are in far worse shape than we will ever be in our lifetimes. And I want to call those people spiritually into the room, because those are the people that we don't see. And I think as artists, it's really, really important. A friend of mine, Lynn Lane, who actually took the picture of that floating violin shot that you'll see associated with, when stuff goes up on the net regarding me. Lynn's a very dear friend. And he said in an article that he was just interviewed for, he's down in Houston, artists need to be activists. Artists need to become activists. It's one of the things that's available to us, right? So no matter what what age we are, no matter where we are in our education, I think there's an opportunity and a new way available to us to look at ourselves. Some of us are thinking about reinvention, right? Some of us are thinking, wow, what was the purpose even of all the concerts that I did? That's one side of the spectrum. There's another side of the spectrum which is like, rah, it's time to get the a cappella app and make all the music that I haven't been making in the past 2 years. And then there's the, I must create opportunities and contributions for the world on the internet. Also true, right? So we're all in this kind of morass, but on a spectrum, from right to left. I know the past few weeks, one of the things that happened for Ashley Bathgate and myself, I saw that Ashley's on the call too. I know that you visited with her recently in a master class. Ashley and I both, being Bang on a Can folks, we have been digging down into what's next for us and how to present and how to be with this kind of new necessity for being online in a certain way that we hadn't thought of before. She making videos for the Novel Stages concert the other day. Both of us, being part of the Bang on a Can marathon, which just took place. And then Peter asked me to come and do this. There's so much that's been taking place. So I'm looking for my own true north. That's where I am. And I am not an expert at many things. The older I get, I'm 55. With each passing year, I realize how much I do not know. And I realize how much I'm not an expert at anything. But there's one thing I'm an expert at, and that's at my own path, at looking at it. So those are the insights that I'll want to bring to you today. I think that during this time of COVID, let's just talk about sort of where we all are mentally and spiritually and emotionally. If there's one thing that any of you who are chronic anxiety sufferers, like I am, if there's anything that you've learned by now, it's that you're much more resilient, perhaps, than you thought that you were. I remember years ago thinking of what the end of the world would look like and what all this, if something went wrong, just in the slightest way, and boy, I could just get myself in a tizzy. Well, I want to talk a little bit about resilience today and about what it means for us who have no work, who don't know what the future is, what it means to actually double down on who we are and on our relationships and how we can kind of do that. Also, the word flexibility and flow are on the table. Flexibility because those of us who have only been playing our violin and only been playing classical music all our lives have really spent a ton of time and focused energy there to get us to a certain point. At the same time, there's always an opportunity to expand beyond that. It's my sense that we who are musicians and identify as that are deeply that, but we are that second to our humanity. One of the things that I have always loved to do when I go out and speak with students is to say, what else do you do? What else is in your life? What was your father? What was your mother? A journalist? A photographer? What are the other things that are in your sphere? What are your other interests? Oh, you work with clay. Or oh, you write. And I say this to my students all the time. I'm sure they're sick of hearing it, but I'm of the belief that all of us who are musicians would be best served to seek how we are creative artists as well as recreative artists. And that the creative art making that we can do simply serves the recreative art music that we make. And that creative energy serves us much more in being fully human. Another thing that comes up to me in terms of flexibility, and before we even get to flow, and also resilience, is while we're not out there performing, because we don't know anything. We really don't. It's too early to tell. I've gotten more and more comfortable with that by the day. I wouldn't say that I'm terribly happy with all the circumstance just as it is, but in a way I am. And once again, there's a spectrum of how we all feel about this. Some of us would really love to be outside because we're going to go crazy if we don't. And some of us are really happy to be inside because finally we have some sense of power and control over our surroundings. There's no way I'm going to get hit by a bus today. Really, honestly, it's just not going to happen. So, there are those people out there to serve, right? We've always considered what we do a contribution. I've always said that the musicians always have come through the kitchen, right? In the courts, back in the courts, we would always come through the kitchen, and we were there. We're the people that people call to celebrate their marriages and their funerals, right? Whenever there's something to be said that can't be said this way, we get the call. We still will get the call. There's going to be a ton of children who've gone through this with us and have had no contact for X number of months, whatever that winds up to be. How can we serve them? How can we go out there and change some lives with our creative solution making, right? That's the flexibility piece and the resilience piece. And then there's the flow piece that I always love to talk about. There's a book that I read, and man, it's been out so long now, by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. I only figured out how to say his name, because it's one of those names with more consonants than vowels. I only figured out how to say his name because I think I was around people who knew his son. So that's the only reason I can pronounce that name. But it's called Flow, The Psychology of Optimum Experience. It made a huge difference to me. I don't even know how many years ago. But it posits that happiness is actually being in a state of flow. And that state of flow might be defined as the period where you lose track of all time. And things just, they take place. They take place and you're in it and you're not thinking about what time it is because you are so engaged with what you're doing. That could be a conversation with a friend. That could be working with clay. That could be sewing. That could be knitting. That could be anything. But it's something that really takes you into a state of flow. So I think about these things, right? And then the next place I start to put them is now the audience has left. The audience has left the building. There's no response. Even me, right in this moment, I have absolutely zero response from you. I can't hear you agree. I can't see you smile. I'm not going to look to see you smile because I'm talking to you into a lens, into a camera. How weird is this? It's weird. So let's let it be weird. It's a new way. And I'll get used to it and you'll get used to it. And there's something to be said for having that be a new part of the practice. While we don't know how long things are going to occur in this way where we've kind of moved everything online, the one thing I can say without a ton of assurance, because I don't, we'll look at this video a year from now and say, here's where he was right, here's where he was wrong, if we look at it at all. So I can't say with total assurance, but it would seem to me that there's a parallel stream now being forged, cut, dug out. A parallel stream to the one that we've all grown up with and known and used. And it's a stream, it's also an income stream, right? It can be. And it's a parallel stream, it's a parallel river. I don't think we're going to go back. I think more and more people will be streaming, more and more people will be making content that they want to share online. More and more people will be teaching online. There will be more and more Zoom calls. There will be another company which subsumes Zoom. That was weird. And it's all going to just kind of tumble forward. So as it tumbles forward, let's look at everything we look at today in the in the context of resilience, flexibility, and flow. Now, when you're on stage, I'm sorry that I won't be able to know how many of you are performers, how many of you are composers, how many people of you have nothing to do with professional music performance or composition. But let's just talk about performers. I'm a violinist. I see some of my friends who are violinists here on the Zoom, and clarinetist as well. When we perform, this is very interesting to me. I hope this doesn't sound too much like contemplating my navel, but it's been occurring to me a lot. When we perform, we stare out into a void in which we believe there is someone listening. Often it's with lights coming at us, so we don't really see an audience, but we know an audience is there and we hear it. What's really compelling to me about that idea is that if any of you have a meditation practice at all, if you do any sort of formal meditation, you might have thought about the idea of, as you close your eyes and you're kind of in your head, what you're looking out at in the blackness is consciousness. And it's where things arise and fall. And that's kind of our experience as performers, at least mine, I should say. I shouldn't speak for you. But I'm standing there on stage and I'm dealing with whatever my own psychoses are, because there's all that. And there are people, and we're having a shared experience. And that's what has always made ticket sales, that's what drives ticket sales, right? Is there is a group of people who have come together who are sharing an experience for that one time, and it's over. And they will have shared that experience. They will take that memory and they will take that feeling, and it will have impacted them in a way that will change their lives forever. I think that's what live performance is like. Whether it's performance, whether it's listening to a lecture, whether it's whatever. Even us here together on this call. We saw this together, but really it's palpable when you're in a hall and you're experiencing it together. Now that that's gone, and we start thinking about the camera, and we start thinking about microphones, our commitment to excellence, to creating good experience for others, to creating a good experience for ourselves, this doesn't diminish. It just moves over to this other stream. So that's kind of where we go next. I'm going to invite Peter and Ashley to negotiate how to maybe bring her into this conversation at some point. But I will say that over the past few weeks, Ashley was she was kind of the reason. She knocked on my door and said, "What are we going to do? What should we get? And this was one of the things that really kind of sparked me to start digging down into what I was going to do. So Ashley and I together, we've kind of been in it together the past few weeks, crafting our streaming setups, our camera setups, and moving to this degree. I've always had a recording studio. I'm standing in it right now. I've had it for 20 years. One of my streams of income is recording for others. So even in the past, if I couldn't make it to a recording session in Manhattan, because I now live 3 hours north of Manhattan, if I couldn't make it to a session, somebody would send me a bounce, and then I would record. Over there, you can't see it now, but there's a walk-in closet which is filled with U-Haul blankets hanging on the walls, put up with a staple gun. And that kind of gives me my deadened room. So I record here. I know software. The stuff I use, I've been using for many years, and it's what I teach at the Manhattan School. And what I hope to teach students at the Manhattan School is how to be responsible for their own situation. I've seen over the past 3 weeks, I've seen people recording in their homes that have never, ever owned a microphone, and who created their own home recording setups and are getting paid to record music for other people that need it. So that's something that's open to you if you haven't attacked it already. So once again, we're going to be on a spectrum today of people who know all sorts of different things about this, and I don't want to bore the people who know a lot about it, and I certainly don't want to underserve the people who need it. So I think what I'm going to do as we just start to go into the streaming thing, Ashley, if you're there, Peter, if that all works out, let's start to have a little conversation there. And as we do, let me just look at the chat real quickly just to see if there's anything that is really pertinent to this part of the conversation that I can respond to. Yes, absolutely. I can talk about Zoom and stuff like that. Yes. Okay. Yes, we're going to go there. Great. Sorry, I should tell you what I'm reading. I want to know how to intelligently invest my limited resources in improving the quality of my home recording sound, from basic setups to thinking of longer term investments, not just spending money on temporary solutions. You see, now, Jennifer, that's kind of how I think. Don't buy it twice. Buy it once. Do your research. Buy it once. I'm in agreement. Great. Look at all this stuff. Okay. Right on. Okay. Good. Okay. Let's move into the tech. It seems like some people want to know some stuff about tech. So I'm going to just start kind of from the front end, go to the back end, and cover the ways, some of the possible ways to think about this. And if you want to get more specific about it, of course I will. Just type it into the chat. So when we think about our online presence, once again, we've got a spectrum from no budget to budget. So no budget, here's how you handle no budget. You find all your friends and you beg and you borrow. You find all your friends who are doing what you want to do and you hang out with them and you ask them questions. And you really, really spend a lot of time even watching over their shoulder on a Zoom call, if they'll let you, watching them work. There's a whole lot to be found, of course. Let me just quickly take you on kind of a more specific place. Oh my goodness, there's this one article. I'll bring it back later. Let's just go straight to Sweetwater. If I were to, sorry, I'm now managing a lot of buttons myself that I do not always know how to manage well. So I'm going to go to over here, I believe. There we go. Sweetwater is one of the places that I buy when I buy new, right? Buying new there is always going to be more expensive than buying used from Reverb. The other thing is, if you're on a budget, you have friends. Friends are always looking to upgrade. So there's always going to be friends of yours which might just want to get rid of a microphone or get rid of this or that. Sweetwater is a great way to search. You could just as well do Google. But there are basically, let's start with the microphones. There are two choices at the very bottom end of finances. There are two choices you can make when beginning to upgrade your scene. One is to just buy a USB microphone, which attaches directly to your laptop and will provide you with really good sound and will upgrade your Zoom calls, which will allow you to actually do some recording into free software like Audacity or Reaper, which we'll talk about later. So you can start to experiment in there. I'm just going to show you really quickly. If I do a search under USB microphones, even with Sweetwater, you'll find articles in here about how to think of USB microphones. You start out, look, $39.99, $99. You get down into let's see, let's get you one that actually is reputable. Here we go, AT2020. I'm speaking into an AT4050. So although it may not sound exactly like this, that's the same company, that's the same type of model and type of microphone. The Rode NT USB condenser microphones. The Beyerdynamic Creator Pro. Have never used any of these.
Hey,
However,
Todd.
yes, tell me.
Could you share that screen that you're looking at right now?
Oh my goodness, I really thought I was, and I'm horrified that I'm not. There we go. Here, let me do it like this then instead. This is action. Now are you seeing it?
We're seeing geese.
That's really not good. Sorry. This is an eCam issue. Let me see if this. How about this one? Now are you seeing it?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. So forgive me for that. Yeah, this is more buttons than I've ever had to deal with. The AT2020 is what I was looking at right here in the middle of this first row. The Rode NT USB. These are kind of the higher ends of the USB microphone situation, right? Now there are I could go through the whole microphone lecture with you, but I think I'll try to stay away from that and say just a couple of very simple things. Whenever you go to a club, you see on stage a bunch of SM58s. They're by Shure. The SM58s were evolutions from the SM57s, which you would have found on Beatles recordings. So we're not talking about a slouch microphone here. They're great microphones, but they're used for live use. And they're fairly directional, and they'll capture what's in front of them. What you actually want to look at for microphones is exactly that. You want stuff that is fairly directional and going to capture your sound quite close to you if you're going to be talking into a mic. If you're going to be playing your instrument into a mic, you're also going to want to have that type of proximity. And the general vibe on microphones for me is very much like cameras. I was talking to Peter about this earlier. Have you ever had the old family photograph where it's like you take the family photograph and all of a sudden when you actually develop it, those are the old days, or when you see it, you're like, you start to see that there's like this little 7 people in the center and there's all these trees and the brick wall and it looks awful and you're like, why did I even take this picture? As with photography, the closer you get, the better your sound will be. So it's a real difference between if you get a microphone that I can speak as loudly as I want, but it's never going to sound quite good until I actually kind of get up close to it. These USB microphones kind of cut it in the middle for you. They are also the Blue Yeti. That's another one that I know I've advised a few people towards. If anybody was watching the Bang on a Can marathon last Sunday, Lisa Moore, the pianist who played Martin Bresnick's work, that was a Blue Yeti. It looks like, where is it? Where's the Yeti? There it is. It's this one on the left. There we go. Yeah, there's the Yeti studio microphone. Comes on its own little stand. This will up your game quite a bit. So let's just start. Can a Zoom H4n audio recorder be used as a mic for streaming? Yes, I think it can. I would have to just go in and look at its specs, but I'm pretty sure. Thanks for that. I'm so sorry about that share thing. The most of the Zoom stuff can be used. There's even what is it? There's a video audio Zoom one that people are using. Yes, it can be. This whole deep dive into webcams, this is a whole nother thing, right? So Ashley and I started to dig into webcams, and of course, there was not a single webcam to be had. Not a single one. Just not a single one for weeks. So both of us were kind of up a creek without a paddle. We started to look into this the notion of capture cards. I'll talk about that in a moment. Let me just stay with the audio. Yes, Maryland, they will be on the Google document. Believe me, we will link to all of these things so that you don't have to worry about it now. So that's a starting out place. A USB microphone can get you in. Also, next, a really great pair of headphones, not earbuds. Buy yourself a nice pair of headphones. Want a couple? Here, I'll give you a couple. Really good $100 option. They have been in studios forever. Is it these, the MDR 7506? Yes, these $99 headphones have been, the choice of recording studios for ages. Now they've moved up. There's the Bayer DT series, Bayer Dynamics, DT 70 Pros. What you want is, especially if you're going to be recording, look, there's a bundle. They just made a bundle with the Fox USB microphone and some headphones. One way to just like kick yourself up a notch really quickly. Whenever you're doing any of this work on Zoom or anyplace else, or trying to make content, you can't do it without headphones. It's I can just say to you, when I get on Zoom meetings with my friends or with my colleagues and they're just in their room, it's kind of upsetting because all I hear is room sound and it's hard to distinguish sometimes the words that they're saying, and they're not very close to their laptops. So this is one way that you can think of others and yourself and kick your game up a notch. The next place to go after you deal with just this very first level thing is if you want to start during this time looking at what your ability to record professionally might be, then I'm just going to give you a quick 5-minute jaunt around the idea of audio interfaces and what they mean. There is absolutely no sound inside of a computer. It just doesn't exist. Inside of a computer, zeros and ones. Up to the edge of the computer, there's sound, there's electricity, there is analogness, right? Just like a light, it's electricity. And it heads up to the computer, and when it hits the computer, there's an internal mic in most of your laptops, if not all of them, and there's a headphone jack, and there are speakers, right? So that means that there is an audio interface in your computer. If you have a Mac, it's near the top, it's near wherever the power is. These days, the power could be anywhere, but it's up near the top. That's where the power supply is. That's where the audio interface is, and it's about this big. It's very small. The job of an audio interface is to actually translate the electricity coming in, the sound, into numbers, into zeros and ones. Then it goes in, gets processed by whatever, or recorded by whatever software you're using, and then it gets translated again out of zeros and ones back into sound. And it comes out your headphone port, out your speakers. Now, you've probably had the experience, especially early on with Skype, where you would talk, and then all of a sudden you would be like, or maybe at the beginning for the whole time, everything's a half second late, right? 500 milliseconds, it's always late. This is what it's like with telephone lines. It's what it's like with this translation and the internet. An audio interface takes that away. An audio interface could be as big as, well, you'll see when I'll show you. I'm going to give you a quick tour of the studio before we go. An audio interface will actually take those numbers and churn them so fast that there is the perception of what we call zero latency, so no delay. So if you want to go that direction, we can even go that direction for a really affordable amount. So you could buy a regular mic, like, let's see, I'll go here. I'll show you what I'm talking on right now. Please don't be shocked, because this is going to be expensive. I've had this mic probably for 10 years. My sound man, Jody Elf, recommended it to me. He said, this is an all-round mic. It's a multi-pattern mic, meaning that it can be very narrow, or it can be omnidirectional and even do a figure 8 pattern in terms of how it picks up sound. This is the mic I'm talking on right now. It used to be $575. It's now, I think, what is that, $699. That's expensive. Also, for all of us instrumentalists, there's this. Ashley uses this. I use this. Ford uses this. All of us, I think Kate uses this. Everybody uses this. This is the DPA 4099. The lovely trick about it is that it's what they call a hypercardioid mic. So basically, it's a very, very narrow pickup pattern right down from the mic capsule, and it rejects all the sound around it. So it's much, much easier to use in ensemble situations. I'll show you over here as well what that looks like. No, not that. Here, type it in. DPA 4099. Danish Pro Audio is what it stands for. Used to be B&K was the original company out of Denmark. So, cello mounting clip, there are piano mounting clips, there are clarinet mounting clips, there are a ton of all sorts of different ways of mounting this onto an instrument. Do I record soundtracks with this? I do. Sometimes. Not often anymore, because I've got a really nice mic cabinet and I really love to exploit that. But now, let's look at what it takes to use something like this, because that's really what's important. I'm going to look at this piece of kit. Scarlett 2i2. This is a company called Focusrite. It's a very small unit. Oh wow, that isn't what I wanted. That's sensory percussion. Here we go. This is an audio interface. 2 in, 2 out. 2 microphones or 1/4-inch inputs in, phantom power, all the things you would need to drive your recording setup and have it come out sounding pretty professional, no matter what software package you were using. So as low as $159, and this is a company that I use quite a bit. Here is the same 2 in, 2 out, made in Germany, the Babyface Pro. Also able to handle all your needs. And then up from there, you just start to add channels, add functionality, add transparency of sound. You get up into companies like RME and Apollo, and you can go even higher than that. But we're really talking about just getting started. So a mic plus an audio interface takes care of your audio. End of story. And headphones. That kind of kicks you up a notch really quickly. Take out the audio interface and you use a USB microphone instead, you're already kicked up a notch right there. The next thing is webcams. It's funny. The Apple FaceTime cameras, what they call it now, they used to call it the eyesight, actually really quite lovely. I mean, it's let's see if I can just do this. Yeah, there's my eyesight. There you are. So this does not look bad. So you're not in bad shape already. You're all, if that's what you're using, you're fine. But if you want to take it up a notch, the Logitech Brio is a really wonderful webcam, which is not sold by Sweetwater, obviously. So that would be a different, just probably a Google thing. There are a number of good webcams. And then, just to kind of bring this part to a close and start to think about questions here, this webcam put right here would look almost as nice as my Sony A6300, which is a professional level camera that I have thankfully been generously gifted by my father-in-law to use during this time. And so anyway, these are the paths upwards. What Ashley and I, oh, are you still not seeing it? Sorry, thank you. There we go. Thank you guys for bearing with me. This is the first time I have ever done a Zoom presentation with screen sharing and all that, other than class. So thank you. So this is the Brio. Ashley and I found that if we were going to use any external cameras at all, if we had any hope of doing that, we'd have to do the same. Remember when I was talking about the audio interface? We'd have to do the same thing with video. So we had to go in search of what are called capture cards. And there are ones by Elgato. Isabel, if you can add that to the Google Doc, please. Elgato, Blackmagic. There are these things which will allow you to plug like real present day cameras that you might already own into them and then use them as web cameras, or using OBS or some other capturing software, be able to just record yourself and make content. But you'll need that as well. So these are the first things that occur to me in terms of the change that's coming. and how we're moving forward. I haven't even scraped the surface with Ableton Live and Reaper and Pro Tools and Logic and all the ways that you can kind of make use of your time and record yourself and play against yourself and begin to make some art at home with audio. But if you'd be interested in that stuff, I mean, you're always welcome to get in touch with me. And Isabel and I host residencies up here in the woods in North Adams, Massachusetts. And we used to do it much more. We don't do it right now. I'm in the middle of one of those residencies, which is now having to take place online. But someday, and we're starting to do them online as well. So let's start to talk about questions. Peter, if you could just come back online and let's talk about what I've missed in the chat.
Sure. We can go back.
Lighting. Mayani just mentioned lighting. Can I start with that?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just going to give you a little view of the studio here. Isabel already has put the link in the Google Doc. And in fact, Isabel, can you just take the link for the lights and just put it in the chat for everybody so they can go there right away? Thank you. This light over here to my left and this light over here to my right are incredibly affordable lights. They blend into white and yellow. They are called Neewee, Neewee, and Isabel will get it up there just as soon as she can. There it is. There's an Amazon link to it. And yes, Ashley mentions Blackmagic, Magwell, Elgato, and then yes, this lighting thing. Let me quickly. I'll just show you this because this is a. Ashley, if you can find that link to that YouTube video that we watched together, there's this great YouTube video of this guy who's like, "Let me show you why lighting matters," right? And you'll see this is kind of exciting. Right now, I'm going to just step over and I'm going to turn each light off one by one. I mean, I have plenty of sunlight and daylight in here, but let me just do that. And now I've got this. I mean, it doesn't suck, right? It's okay. Now I have no lighting. And then you've got those two lovely lights, which Ashley actually gave me. These are little lights from Amazon, which you can control with your phone. They're, you can even make them dance to the music. It's kind of sweet and cute, and I'm not going to do that for you right now. And those lights back there, but it gets very dark in here very quickly. And then there's this kind of washed out look on the camera, and this is a nice camera. So let me turn them back on because I don't like the way this looks either. Peter, why don't you open up the mics and let's talk, if that serves you.
Sure.
Anybody have everybody can always, and everybody can also, you can just raise your hand on Zoom. I'm sure you know this by now by hitting Option Y. And if you've got a question, we can also just kind of reach out to you. I can't see all of you at once.
And you can also unmute yourself by pressing the space bar.
There we go.
So, Todd, we could go back a little bit for some questions.
Sure.
Somebody has a question about a best platform for a 30-minute solo virtual recital.
Best platform for solo. So are we talking about live or are we talking about Memorex?
I think it's recorded.
Here, it's my question. Yeah, they want me to record a 30-minute recital, video recitals to stream at the beginning of June, and okay. I'm not sure what would be the best way to do that. I've been using Zoom for lessons, but not sure what would be the best thing to do for a recital.
Okay, I'm going to throw a few things your way. And if Ashley has anything to add, I will welcome her, or Lane also to add, because he has some experience doing this. I would say, first of all, well, there are a couple of things. One is, how are you? What are you going to use? Now, if you want, if you have an iPhone or if you have an iPad,
iPad.
if you have an iPad and use not the front-facing camera but the back-facing camera, this could be enough for you. Start it, record it, you have those videos. If you can then bring them into anything from an iMovie to a Final Cut Pro to a Premiere, you know, whatever. There are even some free programs, which I'm not really familiar with, where you can do some editing, pull them in. In addition, there are ways, if you're using an iPad, there are ways you can get a microphone, a USB microphone like we were talking about. You can use those with an iPad as well. So you could increase your audio quality by just putting a USB microphone directly into your iPhone, into your iPad. Yes, you would absolutely need an adapter, and yes, they cost $30 too much, but that does exist. And you could work that out quite quickly, I think, if you wanted to work with the iPad directly. Is that a good satisfactory start to an answer?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that gives me, whoops, that gives me something to start with, definitely.
Right.
Yeah, I'll probably be using my iPad because I
right.
actually don't have a good access to a laptop right now. So
Right. Well, and in addition, you know, it's always best to use the technology that you have not only available, but the one that you're most familiar with. Because who
yeah,
needs a learning curve on top of just, you know, getting something put out? Thank you,
right.
Stephanie.
Thanks.
Uh,
Who's next? Yeah, Lynn.
Stephanie had a follow-up question, which I think is relevant for a lot of us these days, is about the settings for Zoom, because a lot of people have a hard time with
Oh,
Zoom. Zoom does lots of things to your sound that you don't want it to do, but
let's
those
just
are
take
easily
care of this.
fixed.
Let's just take care of this with all of you right now. We're going to do the first thing is just in your Zoom client, the one you're using, if you're on a laptop. Just Command, comma, will take you to virtually any set of preferences on any Mac program, period. So Command, comma, you'll find there an audio tab. Go to your audio tab. Couple things that will make your life so much better. Number one, uncheck the box that says adjust microphone volume, because that is going to completely mess with your microphone volume. Next, please go down. Now, I'm going to ask you, I see now 16 people on screen. I don't know how many people we actually have, but with the 16 people on screen that I can see, maybe I can add a few more. Hold on. I can. Okay. With everybody who's got their video on, could you please raise your hand if you see on the bottom of your screen a checkbox that says enable stereo? If you don't have it, do not raise your hand. Yeah, this is one of these. Thank you, Robert. This is one of those things that I have not understood completely yet. Whether you hear stereo, I'm sending stereo, but if you hear stereo or not is kind of a crapshoot a little bit, and I haven't sorted this problem out.
I
So
can weigh in here a little
please
bit.
go ahead,
If that's
Ashley.
okay. Hi, everybody. I didn't have it, and then I went onto the browser Zoom settings, logging in, and I was able to scroll all the way down. I forget exactly where it is, but it was like towards the bottom of a very long list where I checked so that I could use the stereo option. That's what fixed it for me. And then I've noticed like the option disappears when someone else hosts the meeting. So you're putting actually your life in someone else's hands.
And that is exactly what I don't have sorted out. So my Zoom is sponsored by my school because I teach. So, and it's the in meeting advanced tab. If any of you are headed to your own Zoom accounts, it is the in meeting advanced, and it's a very obtuse sentence, but it does say something like, enable stereo for your people, or allow people to enable stereo for themselves. It's that, and it's in the in meeting advanced. And oh my goodness, in my school, it is locked, but locked on. So I think some people have it locked off, some people have it locked on. So anyway, that's yet to be taken care of completely. So then please, if you would, go to your advanced settings in those preferences. And what you want to do, this will change your life for sure. Check the box which says allow option for turning on original sound. What that does is it puts a pull down menu on your upper left hand corner of your Zoom screen. When your original sound is on, the pull down menu will say turn off original sound, awaiting for you to make that change if you like. Now, if anybody in this chat, and I believe a few people have spoken about lessons and the best way to hear other people and so on, it all has to do with this button. It circumvents the compression. I also take those next three things in the advanced section there, the ones before echo cancellation. I never use aggressive echo cancellation, and I disable the other two. And that kind of starts to take Zoom's compression level stuff away. Please know that Zoom is designed, you know this, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. It is designed for meetings. So it's designed for many, many, many people to be on a call at once and all have their microphones open. And it's a mess. And sometimes it's a mess. And sometimes they're very effective at making those meetings run better. For us, we kind of need to keep all this stuff off. So that is all that I know about Zoom. That's all that I know that there is to know about Zoom audio currently. Do know that if you do get the USB microphone, if you do get an audio interface, if you do need to play things through like from software programs as you're teaching or iTunes or YouTube or whatever, there are ways of making that happen. That's kind of the next level thing. But the new microphone can be easily used as your Zoom microphone, as can a new webcam. Those are all just in those preferences. I'm ready for the next.
Great. We had a couple questions which are a little bit related, maybe. One is finding an entrepreneurial community online. And then we have somebody who just moved to New York and was asking for suggestions. What do you do when you move to New York in the middle of the pandemic?
Wow. Can we start with the other one first? Let's see. Okay. So the first one was entrepreneurial communities. Here the only one that I know of and am participating in on some level is Lynn Lane's group in Houston. And it has been an incredible, it's like very high level artists and presenters, and it's like the folks in Houston who are the movers and shakers attend this. And that's kind of more, it's funny. I'm getting a little bit verklempt here because an entrepreneurial group, there's so many of us who are by nature have always been entrepreneurs, and even the presenters once were entrepreneurs, right? So it's very hard to get into any of the groups that are talking about Lincoln Center and about those things. Those are kind of private groups. I think maybe some of the folks who are not me here would have a better idea. Maybe Ford or Kate, Ashley. I'm only looking at certain, like I said, I don't have everybody up here on my screen, so I don't know who's all attending that I know. But maybe some of you guys, does anybody else have some answers to that question?
I'll just jump in with a couple people who we've actually had on already as part of this series. Angela Miles Beeching has a really interesting kind of personal career coaching that she does. And also Jessica Meyer talks a lot about entrepreneurial networking and different topics. So you can find their materials online very easily, and I can vouch for both of them.
When I first heard the question, I think I kind of misunderstood it. I was thinking of Facebook groups that are kind of, oh, here's one. Oh my goodness. Oh goodness. Where is it? It's, I'll get it in just a moment. There are a number, if you're going to talk about people, yes, Jessica, yes, Angela Miles Beeching, yes, all these folks. There are Casey Molino Dunn is our entrepreneurship person at Manhattan. And there's people all around that are kind of awesome. Just seek them out. I was trying to think of a Facebook group for you to go look at, and I was coming up miserably short. So I apologize for that. But yeah, there are some more names. If anybody has more names, please put them up in the chat.
I think though that just remembering my own experience, I mean, this kind of happens naturally for everyone. I feel like I remember I moved there. I didn't know too many people. I started going to concerts. I mean, we're not doing that right now, obviously, but attending concerts, going to gatherings, and from knowing one person who knows another person who knows another person, somehow I feel like you're not going to have much trouble once the pandemic is over and we are actually going out again, you know, meeting people and integrating into that scene. That's what's beautiful about New York, is that there's a lot going on in a lot of different kinds of music. So I didn't, you know, sometimes it's hard to find work, but not hard to find people doing similar things to you. I wouldn't worry too much about it. And I honestly think online this is the community, you know, and this is how we're doing it right now. And you know, Todd's right about Facebook groups, and I've been just, you know, every once in a while I just reach out. I'm like typing something into my status, like have a question, or does anyone have a similar problem, and sort of just, I'm always surprised
magic.
and surprised that people respond, people start weighing in, you know, and that I feel like I'm part of a community in that sense, especially during a time like this.
That's so true. Let's talk about the pandemic, though, just for a minute. I'm also looking up right now. There's a guy named John Kilgore. I want to tell you about him because he's kind of awesome. John Kilgore was the assistant producer and engineer for all the Steve Reich records. I'm part of the Steve Reich band, and Judy Sherman, who's this like uber producer from way back in the day up till now. She was the producer for all these things, and John has been her right hand. And all of us in New York have recorded in John's studio on 44th and 9th repeatedly for forever. He just, at the pandemic start, he started a page called the Home Recording Advice Forum. I'm going to just place it here in the chat really quickly. And it's everybody. It is producers. It is folks like me, who are both producers and performers and composers. Here we go. Just look at this. It's like everybody's getting advice and support and help. What kind of microphone should I buy? Oh, I need another room microphone. And then people, you know, pile in and say, well, maybe you don't need another room microphone. Maybe you need to think about it this way. And it's kind of an awesome resource. And John, being who John is, has contributed so much energy to this group and brought all these people together who never were together before. Talk about a pandemic idea, right? It's like, what can I do? Well, I'll do this. So that's John. I can't say enough about that and this group. So, oh my God, Christopher North. Yeah, there we go. This is a perfect time to get your cold call email game together. That's an interesting thing, Christopher. I'm gonna push back on that just a little bit. I'm gonna say why. Entrepreneurship, and this also goes for this also goes toward this pandemic question. What do I do when I'm moving to New York in the midst of a pandemic? The first thing you do is you stay indoors. Second thing you do is you wear a mask. Third thing you do is wash your hands. Now, so I don't know. It's just too early to tell what things are going to be like. As things unfold, and as things, I hope we never go back to normal. Frankly, I think normal's boring. I would love to see a new awakening amongst all of us human beings. I would love to see that, and I'd love to be a part of it, and I'd love to call everybody to be a part of it. As we do that, one of the things to remember about being an entrepreneur and creating things, it really helps to be in a place at the same time. And I don't mean a physical place, an online space. I'm looking at all my friends, you know, former students who have become colleagues that are even on this chat. They have formed their groups and their bands at school. They've been kind of a part of something already, and then they sought people out. So in the absence of that, because let's say you're not in school and you're just moving, the answer is, as Ashley says, go to concerts and go hang out with people and make friends without the intention of getting work and without the intention of doing anything but being nice and sharing and receiving and being human with people. There is the cold call email game where you just basically reach out and you say, hey, you know, I just want to introduce myself. I do this. I've looked at your work. I love your work. And I just want to let you know I'm here. That is absolutely worth something. It works even a little bit better for Chris and myself, who are kind of in the, we sometimes do films. And so like a very dear friend of mine, he basically went to this director and said, I want to make the score for every movie you make from now on. I'll do it. And that guy took him on. So there's something to be said for that. But I think there's also something really to be said for just creating community and being with people. When you're with people and you are reliable and you're kind, you're generous, good person, people respond to that and they want to be around you. All of a sudden you're getting hired. Now, this also goes very, very much the same with the online presence. Let me just say one word about Facebook, and everybody has their own way of using this tool. It's just a tool, just like all of the microphones and everything else. Create value with every post you make. Create value. A whine is never, ever value for anybody, but create value for everybody who you wish to touch. And that does more entrepreneurially, I think, than anything. It kind of begins to create community. And really, that's kind of what we are all about. We are priests and priestesses. That's who we musicians are. Create value for people. I think that's our job, no matter where we do it and when we do it. Also want to just really quickly, Isabel has already, I believe, put this in the Google Doc, but just in case you never saw it, this is an old article by Aisha Ahmad, and March 27th, 2020. It was one of the early articles that came out and said, hey, before you try to issue your, hawk your new record project and do, your 5th a cappella video, just step back for a minute. And it's okay not to be productive. It's okay to reflect and to really get with what's going on here. So I kind of wanted to call that to attention. Sorry, go ahead, Peter. Any more questions?
Yeah, we have a question on what would be the next step beyond an audio interface, mics, and DAW in terms of hardware. Also, is there a better video streaming platform for live collaboration, or are there no decent options because of syncing issues? Thanks for taking the time today.
Oh my God. Well, you're welcome. And if I could just find that, I'd rather read it because it's really hard for me to take all that in. Oh, wait, I found it. Daniel, what would be the next step beyond an audio interface, mics, and DAW in terms of hardware? Okay. Well, it depends. I mean, it all depends for what, If you're talking about just recording, build your mic cabinet. Begin to record with other people. There are certain plugins that are kind of really rich and, and really quite wonderful in terms of making your production swing. I would say that the next step after an interface, mics, and a DAW, depending upon your DAW, get some education around your DAW. Mac Pro Audio Video is a great site for really great stuff. YouTube has tons of stuff. If you're going the free route or the next to free route, there's tons of videos on Reaper. You can learn a lot about recording from there, just from their website, reaper.fm. I actually, I did want to show you that because Reaper is one of those open source projects that has been really wonderful. The version numbers come out, all the time. And technically, it is a $64 program, but you never have to pay for it. because you can always evaluate it. There's a little countdown on the screen. Not that you shouldn't pay for software. I think we should, especially when we're making money. But it's other people's work. But that, that stuff. The next hardware, if you start to work with MIDI and you want to start with MIDI instruments, of course, you're going to need a keyboard. You're going to need some samples maybe you want to use. I use Ableton Live, so the Push 2 is a piece of hardware that I would never go out the door without anymore. Also, they're a better video streaming platform for live collaboration. So this is a real thing. So I don't know yet. I don't know. There is something called Internet 2. Internet 2 is in educational institutions. It's extremely high-speed internet with pretty much zero latency. You can kind of get on that thing and fly and improvise with each other. There are people doing these things. There's a software called, it's funny, everybody calls it Listento, but I think it's named Listen To. But it's something that they're using between studios to do engineering with each other. It's like to kind of real-time presence in an engineering situation. There are some things out there. I think probably you can count on most of the things that are going to work better are going to be something that costs something, maybe $200 to $300. Listen to, Listento, whatever it is that type of thing. Some of the stuff that you're going to see, like Jam Kazam, stuff like that. Yeah, just try it once, and if it doesn't work right away, it's not going to work. And maybe set your sights toward something else. There is somebody who I saw the other night. It's Ron Blessinger, who I'm trying. When you get so many friends on Facebook, you're like, do I know this person, and where do I know them from? Ron and his colleague were playing clapping music, Steve Reich's clapping music, through software that the guy had designed. And it was flawless. It was in sync. It was fine. So I do not doubt that during this time we will see that hump be overed. Is that the way of saying it? We'll get over the hump on that particular issue. I don't know of it now. And everything that I have seen, that from what I can tell, has been recorded in people's houses, sometimes with their phones. Like this Jason Robert Brown thing, the Broadway composer Jason Robert Brown that I did just 2 weeks ago. We spent 2 weeks, all of us, like the whole band, and Ariana Grande, and Shoshana Bean. We all recorded in our houses, and we uploaded the files to Dropbox. They got knit together. They came out as a show. Isabel's going to put that in the show notes in the Google Doc. You can see that. You can see the result of us recording in our homes. No click, by the way, just a piano track of Jason Robert Brown playing his tune, and then we all recorded our parts, uploaded them to the Dropbox. Video went to LA, all iPhone video, or in my case, LG V30 video, and all the audio files went to his producer, came out. So that's what I think people are doing most of the time right now, and I think we'll get there. But all I'm saying is don't waste your time with stuff. Make music instead.
And get an Ethernet cable.
Oh my God, we haven't talked about that. Oh my God.
That's a piece of hardware you can invest
in.
in.
The best piece of hardware you can possibly invest in is an Ethernet cable. Over 5G. So everybody gets this, not everybody. Sometimes it can be confusing. So you've got your modem, it's coming in your house, and you got your router. And on your router, most often, there's so-and-so 2G, so-and-so 5G. And that 5G, of course, has nothing to do with all the conspiracy theories which are about to arise through the cellular 5G. So that 5G is destined better for devices, phones, iPads, computers. There is no wireless internet which is as fast, as reliable as a wired connection. In my computer, I have a 50-foot Ethernet cable. It cost me something like $15 or maybe a little bit more, and it goes all the way to my router. And that's what gives me, if I haven't had a lot of dropouts for you today, that's why. So that's the other thing. So Ashley would back me up on this. The three things you want to do for yourself, Get yourself a good microphone. Get yourself some good headphones. Improve your camera thing if you would like through a bunch of different types of measures. But before you do any of that, get yourself an Ethernet cable and improve your bandwidth situation.